I removed from our insights, everybody. And this morning we have Stacey Calder from the Business Success Network. So, Stacey, over to you when you're ready.
Brilliant. Thank you, Vicky. So today I'm going to talk to you about awards and I'm going to talk to you specifically about sponsoring. And the reason I'm going to do that is in a couple of weeks' time, I'm doing one of the academies and it's going to be on what I was going to talk about today. So I've changed it up a little bit. But what I want you to get out of today is almost a list of ideas of ways you can use sponsorship, not necessarily my sponsorship, but sponsorships in general. So here's a list of things that you might sponsor, and some of them you might have heard of, you might have seen before, but others you might be thinking, actually, that's something that I'd never even thought about. So really what I want to leave you with after these kind of 8 minutes is some food for thought. So obviously I talk about awards and I talk about business events. I just said earlier that we're off the back of the conference, and for us and for event organizers to put those on, we need people to sponsor the events. For us, it's about making sure we have enough money in the bank, if you like, to bring those events and make them really kind of stand out. For the person sponsoring, I'm going to talk about why they would sponsor shortly. But there are lots of things you can do. So I offer sponsorship for our awards, which are national awards, and I offer sponsorship for our conference. But there are so many things out there when you look and when it's on your radar. So you might be a parent and you might be stood on a football pitch or a rugby pitch and you've seen the boards of sponsors or the shirts with the sponsors on. So you might want to look at sponsoring um, a football team or a rugby team. Now, obviously, there's different leagues and there's different things, and that will obviously the cost will come into that. But I'm a parent at a local rugby club, and all you see across the pitch are the sponsorship boards. And actually, the sponsors turn up, have a bit of a shindig. So there's lots of things within the sporting industry that you could sponsor. These are particularly good if you've got an interest in sports, obviously, but actually, if you're a local business and you've got a local team, really good at getting your name out there locally. So have a look at things like football, rugby, other sports are available. And there will be different levels of sponsorship. So it might be that you get your name, as you're pulling into the ground. It might be that you're a sleeve sponsor. Lots of different ways for you to get visible with sports. Obviously, I'm going to talk about business events. So things like conferences, but also there might be things like well-being events. Vicky's a coach, so it might be that she's looking at getting in locally to her audience, and she might come across a health and wellness event that needs a sponsor. So Vicky might do that. And why would she do it? Well, because she wants to get her name out locally. It might be her target audience. It might be that, she wants to lock out her competition. There might be another coach locally that she just thinks, actually, I'm going to get in here before they do. So there's lots of reasons why. Other things that you could sponsor could be something like a network. So I have a nice community. I actually do takeover days where people can come into my community group, which is really affordable. It's like 15 quid, which is ridiculous, let's face it. They can take over my community for a day. They can post what they like about their business, and then they get a blog and some outward social media as well. So it means that they're showcasing themselves to a new audience. And to my audience, and we've built up that relationship with them, so they're very engaged. And lots of other networks will do that. There might be something like a networking company, for example, that will offer sponsorship days, or the chance to go on their banners and things like that. So have a look at networks, have a look at things like local fairs. Might be a Christmas fair, health and wellness fair. It might be a wedding fair. Often people will sponsor those, not just have stalls and stands. We talked about teams, but there might be somebody that is a sportsman that's actually looking for personal sponsorship. So that's quite a popular one, especially with people that are coming up through the ranks. They often need sponsorships, so they will approach businesses to have a look at their kit and get things like that. So they need that funding to carry on in that sport, for instance. You might sponsor some goodie bags at an event. And I say this because, oh, look, Matt Richardson's turned his head. There will be people out there that have got merch or that want their name on that merch or something like that. But most events, you know, they offer swag and they love a bit of merch, don't they, Jonathan? And they need their branding on it. But then, you know, they've got to have something to put it in. So Matt was really, really kind. One of our sponsors, we were asking for some goodie bags, and Matt went, "Yeah, I'm in." And actually, they were the best goodie bags ever. So there's always ways to sponsor something. Um, Obviously, I'm going to talk about business events, conferences, industry related expos, things like that. And obviously, my personal favorite is awards, because I run an awards, but I've won awards and I've judged awards, and it's just such a lovely way to get involved. So let's talk a bit more about why people would sponsor an award. Why would James, you know, knock on my door and say, "Come on, tell me more about this"? Well, it raises your profile first and foremost. If you're going to put money in, you want to put money into something that is going to raise your profile. It's going to showcase your credibility and your experience, and it's going to allow you to share your message, whatever that is. I'm not going to share James's into the group today and say, you know, we're looking for anyone. We're going to go and share with James that actually he wants new startups, he wants this. And it's not James telling everybody that, it's actually the event sponsors. So it's a really good way of getting those focused messages across. It also gives you access to a new audience. The whole idea is that you are tapping in to the audience. And as I said, I'm going to be talking about this more in the 1N Academy in a couple of weeks, where we're going to look at how you can market business awards and use them without actually, it doesn't even matter if you win. Imagine that. Doesn't matter if you win, your business will. And I say that quite a lot. So think about the expertise that you've got. Think about the business event and how you can showcase those expertise. And I would always say, speak to the organisers, because it might be that they have a standard package and it doesn't quite suit you, but actually having a conversation with them, it might make, you know, it might make some adjustments. It might make it really useful. You might have a light bulb moment and go, actually, yeah, that really works. So think about how it's going to raise your profile. Make sure it's the right audience. You don't want to be going and sponsoring a health and wellness fair if you're not in that health and wellness industry. Similarly, you're not going to want to sponsor an awards if you can't stand entering awards. You know, it's just what works with you. It might be that you're a network marketer and you want to enter a certain award, so you wouldn't sponsor the award you want to enter. You might sponsor a different award so that you raise your profile on the night. It might be that you know, you've looked for there might be some industry related ones, and so you think, actually, I don't want to enter the award, or I won it last year, now I'm going to give something back and I'm going to sponsor it, because it will just raise that credibility even more. So specifically me, then, why would you take a sponsorship with me? Well, because it's me and you network with me, and I'm a very nice person to network with, and hopefully by now we've built up some trust and you understand that I don't shut up about awards. So that's one reason. But also, as I mentioned, I can tailor those packages. So we have category sponsors, we have a silver level sponsor, and we have an overall sponsor. And I can tailor that to what you need. It's not just a here's a list of things you're going to get. Actually, we work with the person. And what I would say is, I'm going to end on a very short story. Back in 2022, a guy entered, and he was a fashion designer, and he came across the sponsorship packages. And he said to me, I really like the look of this and I need to get visible. Will these sponsorship packages work for me? And I'll be honest, it's a business awards. I genuinely had no idea how a fashion designer was going to fit in with sponsorship packages. But I knew the packages worked and I knew we were very good at getting people visible. So I said, look, I think we can make this happen. Let's work it out as we go. But this is what you'll get. And let's see how we can do it. And he was brilliant. He got so engaged in the community. And I said to him, just go in there, ask questions, tell people that you're going to be at the awards, ask people what we're going to do. And let's face it, when people go to a black tie event, they're going to be talking about what shoes they're going to wear, what dress is acceptable. one woman had commented in there saying, I'm not a dress girl. Is it acceptable for me to wear a suit? So actually, by him being really visible and giving his time to answer these questions, he then actually approached me and said, let me custom make you a dress so people can see my work on the night. Little things that he just fed in. By the end of the night, on the actual night, he had a photo took with him and 4 outfits that were in the room that he'd styled and created. And then a month later, he's at London Fashion Week dressing Anita Dobson. So did sponsorship work for him? Absolutely. We didn't know that it was going to have that much of an effect. I genuinely didn't know. I was thinking, how are we going to fit a fashion designer in here? But it's about targeting those in the audience that need your services. And it's not just you talking about it, it's us as well. And I love that story because it just shows it's a business award and actually you can fit anything in. And I love a challenge. So if you come to me and said, I've got a product, I will fit it in. We've had teddy bears as centerpieces before and then auctioned them off at the end for charity because a lady had a build a bear type business and she wanted to sponsor and get her bears out there. My God, it nearly caused a riot. There was people fighting over bears because they wanted to take home these gorgeous little teddy bears with branded t-shirts on. So I loved it because 10 teddy bears went off with my branding on and they were fighting over cute little teddy bears as centerpieces. So we've had 1N members providing soap hoses last year and it was just gorgeous because nobody believed me they were soap and they were. And I think one maybe even like tried it because they thought it wasn't soap. It was. So there are lots of different ways that you can get involved in sponsorships, whether it is a traditional category sponsor, an overall sponsor. 1N was really good. They sponsored the champagne reception last year. They got so much from it because they actively got involved. And it's always easier for us to promote and for you guys to promote. Matt did a really good job with some clackers, and I will say they stole the show because everybody in the room, there you go, look, had these clackers. And it's just about the little things you can do to make that sponsorship really stand out. You know, people will be looking at those and going, well, what is 1M? Why are they in the champagne reception? Well, it's because everybody's networking in a champagne reception. And so it worked really well for a networking company to sponsor that. And so that's it, really. I think we've got a couple of minutes for questions, maybe. Yeah, Vicky's saying yes.
Brilliant. Absolutely. So do we want the questions on the recording? Let's keep the recording going.
It's up to you, yeah.
Anybody got a question? I've got a question to start with. So what size business, Stacey, would you recommend might think about sponsorship? Because obviously there is an investment, and I use the word investment carefully, rightly there. Is there a size of business that you would say you need to be at this sort of level before you sponsor an event?
It depends on the event, and I would say have a conversation. So, and that's one of the reasons we offer a tiered sponsorship, because you probably, if you're a new startup, you're probably not going to afford a big overall package for, you know, a big glitzy glamorous event or a 4-day conference. But there will be ways you can get involved, and I love the fact that anybody can get involved. And like I said, it might be that you sponsor a goodie bag or create the centerpieces or sponsor something, you know, quite low key. It might be that you know, you're a graphic design sponsor and you do all the branding for the event and it'll have sponsored by Jonathan at Smooth or whatever it is. So there are ways that you can tailor it even for small businesses. And the one thing that we do is we offer installments. So even though our awards now are not till June next year, our smallest package, if you like, is a category sponsor at 495. We've got people paying £50 a month, which makes it really affordable, even for small businesses. In fact, someone said to me the other day, actually, that's not as expensive as I thought. So ask the questions, ask people, this is what I'm interested in. Is there a payment plan? Is there a thing? And actually work some into your budget. People will say to me, I've already done my budget for this year, but next year I'm really interested. So if you're having those conversations, if it's on your radar as part of your marketing, then you can budget it in. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thanks. John, I think you've got a question.
Yeah, I think brilliant, Stacey. Thanks so much. There's so many different stories there, which all kind of like resonate with so many of us. I think you've already answered the question that I was going to ask. Is what would you think is a sensible entry level? You've mentioned 495, which I think is extraordinarily good value. I'm doing all the graphics for Rachel's Expo in November, so I get free exposure just by creating graphics. Do you have any figures like in terms of the ROI, so that if you were to spend 500 quid, and I think it's great that you can install that over, do 10 payments of 50, brilliant, because it then becomes invisible literally to your bank account. Yeah. Do you have any kind of figures on ROI or success stories? I know you've mentioned the fashion designer, but in terms of this is what you can potentially get back.
Yeah. So before my Business Success Network Awards, I ran an awards for mums in business, and I think it was our 3rd year running, and we'd got it. There are a lot of mums in business out there, but it is a niche market. And our overall sponsors, and I use this because I use it the same model, if you like, as our BSN ones now. Twitter is not really a platform that a lot of people are coming away from it, but I use it as a really good example for these headlines, for these overall sponsors. And that is that packages like that, you are fully exposed. So every time there is a Business Success Network sponsored by James at 76 Services, that's going out on all the marketing. We tracked our hashtags and we actually hit 8 million timelines on Twitter. Now that is a lot of exposure, not just for us, but for those as well. Last year, when we announced the finalists, we actually broke LinkedIn and we broke Instagram, because we'd got all the nominees sat there refreshing, and we released them every 10 minutes. So you can imagine you've got 600 nominations and they're all sat on social media platforms refreshing, waiting for their category to come through. I did have a mini heart attack. Laurie will understand this. If you're scheduling in something every 10 minutes across 4 or 5 platforms, like squeaky bum time doesn't even hit it, I'll be honest. And then when suddenly someone messages you going, LinkedIn's gone down, it came back 10 minutes, we were okay. So yeah, that's for me, the return on investment is make sure that they're tracking their stats, ask those questions to those event organizers.
Brilliant, thank you.